Welcome to GameSpot Live. I'm Greg Kasavin here to give you the lowdown on SimCity 4 from Maxis and EA. Before designer Will Wright became the creator of the best-selling computer game of all time, The Sims, he was already very well known for creating the SimCity series, which has been around since the late 80s. The SimCity series always had a simple and compelling premise. In it, you play as mayor and get to design a town of your own creation from the ground up. You have to lay down residential, industrial, and commercial zones and basically create a place where a lot of people would want to live, provide them with all the amenities like police protection and football stadiums and, all that kind of stuff. And SimCity basically became a huge success and spawned a couple of successful sequels as well. Actually, it's interesting that SimCity 4 is only the third major upgrade to the series in nearly 15 years. And more interesting still is the fact that it really, doesn't fundamentally change the way SimCity has always worked, although it does present a couple of interesting new features and some extra added layers of depth. SimCity 4 also comes with some unfortunate technical problems. The game's been a long time in the making, and you'd probably expect a more polished, finished product. So that's rather unfortunate and does kind of bog down the final product a little bit. Still, at its core, it's an interesting and engaging strategy game, and one that's suitable for all audiences and has lots of humor and lots of real strategic depth to it. So SimCity 4, both for fans of the series and for newcomers to it, is going to have a lot to offer. One of the big changes in SimCity 4 since its predecessors is visible right from the get-go. You'll see a view of what's called Sim Nation, though it's kind of more the size of a large county, when you first begin the game, and you start off creating a city first by clicking on one of the many smaller subsections of this Sim Nation area. There you can kind of terraform the land to your heart's content in what's called the God mode, where you don't have unlimited health and ammo, you just have control over, raising mountains and creating forests and spawning animals in and stuff like that. So you can first lay out the land exactly how you want it to be and then get started with creating your city. It's unfortunate that there isn't more pre-made content in the game. You basically have to start off building your own city, as there are only a couple of kind of ready-made cities for you to even look at. And really, if you're a fan of previous SimCity games, you'll remember that those games all had plenty of pre-built cities or plenty of pre-built scenarios, like having to deal with the aftermath of the great earthquake in San Francisco and stuff like that. But SimCity 4 really doesn't have any of this. It's just a big sandbox mode there for you to start your building and maybe start downloading the creations of other players. But there isn't much for you to start with from the get-go. You have to start slow, too. It's very easy to run out of money early on. You'll inherently want to build kind of all the stuff that you'd expect from a city right from the start, police station and football stadium and so forth, but really you have to restrain yourself even from providing your citizens with things like running water at the very early stages, because you really only want to lay out the basic residential and industrial zones and wait for people to move in and the money to start rolling in. Once you do get rolling, you'll find that there's real depth to the game as you're trying to kind of manage zoning different densities of residential, commercial, and industrial areas, and providing all the different transportation options and kind of healthcare and education and recreational types of things that your citizens would expect. The interface works really well for the most part, although the game has a few weird issues in it. One of the new additions is that when you're zoning areas, streets are automatically built in. You'll automatically get kind of a grid-like format as you lay down residential areas and such. The problem is when you lay down adjacent zones, these streets often won't match up, and it causes all kinds of problems. Plus, the streets are just really expensive to afford early on, making the early going that much harder. You'll wish that this was optional, but it really isn't. It's just built into SimCity 4, and you're going to have to learn to deal with it. Also, now you can zoom in really close to any of your buildings and kind of any of your backyards and all kinds of stuff, and it's really quite striking, the level of detail that's in the game. In addition to the heightened detail in the graphics, you have a lot more detail when it comes down to your management ability over your city. In previous SimCity games, you could, of course, change the tax rate to kind of get more people coming in or get more money out of them, and you could change the budgets of your police and fire departments and so forth. Now you have a much finer level of control over that sort of thing. You could tax, only rich residential areas or high-tech industries, and kind of give the farmers a break, or give kind of lower-income residents a break and stuff like that. So you have much more control over your taxation. Likewise, if there's a police station in some really crime-infested neighborhood, you might want to keep that particular precinct's budget up high, but some other police station sitting pretty in some suburb, you could cut their budget independently and make sure you're making as much money as possible that way. Although you can kind of look at different color-coded charts and different graphs and so forth to find out, about your crime rate or poverty levels and those sorts of things in your city. You can really just look around the city and observe and see things like, crime scene style chalk outlines of murdered people in the streets, and you're probably going to want to put a police station there, but you could just observe what's going on and make decisions based on that. Really, this has the effect of making it so that SimCity 4 has never a dull moment in it. You could always be doing something, even when you're, kind of waiting for the money to roll in. There's so much going on in the city that you'll have a fun time just kind of looking around. This comes at the cost of the game performing pretty terribly, in fact, on anything but a high-end system. It'll really bog down, and you're sort of penalized in that the better and bigger your city gets, the more slowly it's going to run. As you switch to different zoom levels, you'll see this kind of mosaic effect as the level of detail comes in. That's pretty distracting and doesn't look very good. So, plus the camera movement is sluggish. So while SimCity 4 looks really great when it's standing perfectly still, it might bring your system to its knees. That's just one of the technical problems. Users are reporting all kinds of issues trying to get the game to run. There's an issue of the game being incompatible with the anti-aliasing features of certain video cards and stuff like that. A cooperative multiplayer mode described in the manual is also missing from the game currently, and again, the lack of scenarios all is suggestive of the fact that the game was just kind of pushed out a bit too early. It could have had more in it, but with so many people playing SimCity 4, more than likely there's going to be a lot of downloadable content soon enough, and so forth. So this shouldn't necessarily deter you from buying the game, though. Again, it's just a commentary on a publisher, wanting to get their product out there perhaps sooner than they should have. Ultimately, SimCity 4 isn't completely different from its predecessors. It has a lot of the same traits, and that's what makes it a great game still, just like its predecessors were. It's this game that anyone could play and enjoy. It's got plenty of humor, a lot of variety, and a lot of flexibility to it. It lets you do things your way and so on and so forth. It does have certain limitations and a surprising lack of options from the get-go. And plus, the technical issues do drag the thing down. So all that is kind of unfortunate, but still, SimCity 4 is just a great strategy game with a lot of cool stuff going on that can be recommended pretty much to anyone. And it could keep you entertained for hours on end, and you might learn something from it too, so that's pretty good.